Okay, welcome back. Back again to enter this crazy matrix. And I'm going to be honest with you, shit is hitting the fan out there.
Not only
Welcome
out
back.
there, right?
Yeah. Well, internally. So we were just talking before we started talking here for like an hour now. And just realizing how not just is shit hitting the fan externally in the world right now, but that's a fractal of shit hitting the fan internally. So let's see where this goes today. And welcome back, Nikolai.
Hi, everyone.
So based on what's going on obviously in the world today and what's going on as we're transitioning from Matrix 5 to Matrix 6, I wanted to start this session by talking about hierarchies and how Matrix sees these structures. And this is going to make sense as we kind of go through this, but the first sort of question I had was, okay, how does Matrix choose hierarchies of nations? Because if we're looking at the world, we can see where there seems to be hierarchies that magically appear. We had the Roman Empire, we had the British Empire, we've had the Ottoman Empire, we've had you name it, and now we're in
Chinese,
this.
Persian, the list goes on. Egyptian.
Yeah, we're in the American Empire.
Yeah.
But how is this stuff forming, and how is Matrix choosing who gets to be the top dog and who's not? And I kind of want to start there.
I'd say it's quite a complex process that I don't think it's almost. Let me describe it the following way. Matrix is a very multiplayer game, right? It's what is it, 8 billion multiplayer game, and there's a lot of complexity. And there's one goal that we keep touching on. It's to help carriers of consciousness, which are humans, to evolve and evolve as effectively and efficiently as possible. So creating those structures is just part of that grander process. With that said, what I want to add there is this civilization that inhabits this planet has failed, and it has failed multiple times. And what I mean by that, there are a bunch of religious uh, ancient texts, religious and ancient and all types of texts that talk about the major flood, the major reset, and etc. And where I'm going with this is that this planet has been reset multiple times because civilizations have failed, meaning civilizations stopped as a grand scale or at a collective scale, stopped evolving and started degrading. And that is where we stand today. We are in a state of overall degradation. What that means is this planet was heading towards another reset. That's why all the, we've touched on in a previous episode, all the uh, billionaires and politicians and etc. are feeling something's coming. And everybody's building underground bunkers, underground cities, buying submarines, yachts, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of movies made about it. The last one was Homestead, that I started watching, but the acting was just too rough. I couldn't get through it. With that said, the concept is underlying what's unfolding, and where I'm going with this is this planet was supposed to be reset again because the current civilization, human civilization, has failed and has not demonstrated that can continuously evolve, and started degrading and started getting closer and closer towards self-destruction. And given the planet is a overall planet is consciousness as well, is a carrier of consciousness, and it is more advanced consciousness than an average inhabitant of this planet. So it has self-defense mechanisms. If it observes that the ants, humans, that inhibit live on this planet are leading towards destruction of the mothership or the planet itself, it will wipe out the ants. And that's those stories of floods and whatever, all those major apocalyptical events that have been described in many texts. This is where this planet has been heading. However, the trajectory has been changed. This planet has a lot of intrinsic value across many dimensions. It's, as an example, its flora and fauna is super diverse. The history of the planet is super diverse. Energetic repository of the planet, basically what is stored in, let's say, consciousness of the planet, is insanely diverse. And that's where the true and real value is. Meaning, this planet has seen presence of many different civilizations. And as an example, what you've just touched on, we've seen a presence, fractally, we've seen a presence of different civilizations among humans emerge, which is like Chinese, Egyptian, Persian, now American, the list goes on. That is just an indication of the depth and the diversity of what exists, what is stored energetically in the matrix. And the more diverse that data is in the matrix, that means the matrix can produce a more diverse types of outcomes and possibilities of what can be created and what is possible. So that's why this planet is very, very valuable. And because of this value, there is a subset of a population that is working right now to prevent a reset by transitioning this planet to a new state, which is 6 matrix. So basically, if I would summarize it, the current version of human civilization has failed, and it needed to be reset. And not just reset through what we're seeing right now, but another flood, another major, as they say, geophysical event that would wipe out population and start from scratch and see if the new version of civilization can actually become sustainable and be focused on evolution and not hit a point of degradation. So let me pause here and see what follow-on questions you have, because I can take it in many directions.
Yeah. Well, there's a number of different directions to go on this that we've just branched off to real quick. So one thing I want to know is, well, because obviously if we just with our own eyes, like we objectively just look up at the sky, we see thousands of planets, just what we would be able to see, or stars or solar systems. So the first question I have, well, and you touched on it a little bit, but why this planet specifically? And then, how many has it, each time that a civilization failed, was that a transitioning to a new matrix, since we're on matrix 6? Like, did we have matrix 1, 2, 3, or what led up to the current iteration, which was 5? And was that just over, well, we don't even know how long of time? Was it all these different human or other than human iterations of civilization that failed, that got us to where we are now, if that makes sense?
Let me separate a few things. It's like, let's separate apples and oranges. First of all, most of the human history, as we know right now, is heavily distorted. The
Well, they say
order,
history is only ever written by the winners.
not only that, it has been distorted because there is a bigger game unfolding beyond the human games that we're seeing.
Hmm.
As I mentioned in the past, there are many. So there is human civilization, but this is just a vessel, and that vessel can be occupied by all types of consciousness and different representatives of consciousness, or in other words, all different types of souls.
Mm-hmm.
And so this body called Nikolai uh, is occupied by a soul that was originally formed in around a star called Mintaka, which is a third, a rightmost star in Orion belt. So if you look at the sky, you see three stars, and the Orion, that's our three stars Orion belt. The rightmost star is Mintaka. So the soul that is playing this quest or expressing itself, the consciousness that is expressing itself through this body, has originally formed in that sector of universe. And as you've mentioned, when we look at the sky, there are so many. So the
Yeah.
whole egotistical, egocentric perception that we're the only smart kind is very far away from truth. So this consciousness has lived in other bodies in other places, and that's why things like regression and things like the work that Michael Porter did with Journey of Souls and etc. is possible, where people can view where that consciousness has been previously and experiences it had, or where that soul has previously had evolutionary experiences through other bodies, through other types of creatures, and etc. So coming back to this, there are many types of civilizations that can express themselves through the bodies on this planet. And we talked about high vibrational civilizations. Those are civilizations that come from a part of space where there is more energy. It's closer to the central sun of the universe. That means there's more energy, hence more energy. Since more energy, less concept of scarcity, fighting, aggression, and etc. And at the same time, there are representations of low vibrational civilizations that come from a part of space where there is less energy. Hence, they had to fight to survive. They emerged and evolved in a state of scarcity. And those are the loud terms in woo-woo and spirituality of reptilians, insectoids, greys, the goons, the list goes on. There are a bunch of them that exist here and play this game. Same as there are a bunch of high vibrational civilization exists here and play the game. And where I started this explanation, the value of this planet is that souls and consciousness from all these parts of the universe have previously loaded and interacted with the matrix here on this planet. Hence, they brought their knowledge, they brought their wisdom, they brought, and when I say wisdom, energetically, they brought experiences of their civilization. And there's no experience that is not valuable. Same reptilians and insectoids. They have unique experience of them evolving and emerging in this universe, and that is valuable. So, since all of them played the game here, per se, that knowledge and that experience and that, let's call it, repositories of their civilization is accessible through this matrix. As a result, and the reason it's accessible is what we've touched on previously on. This planet exists in a so-called bordering sector of universe in between high vibrational part of the universe and low vibrational. So it's in the middle. We also call it it's a middle world. It's a world that connects high vibration to low vibration, heaven and hell, and
Mm-hmm.
etc. And the beauty of this world, many souls go through this middle worlds to incarnate in other parts of the universe. If somebody in a low vibration civilization evolved, or soul evolved, or consciousness evolved to a point where it's behaving and resembling the values of high vibration civilization, it would incarnate here to transition to high vibrational part of universe, to incarnate next in the other solar system, where it can continue its evolution that is high vibration. So because it's in the middle, it's like fractally, I would call it Istanbul. Istanbul was connecting east and west, and up till now, when you go there, it's like such a crazy mix of energies. It's very difficult to, at least for me, or actually for a lot of people, to be there, especially people who are intuitive and sensitive, to spend extensive amounts of time there, because it really mixed a lot of cultures, it mixed a lot of backgrounds and etc. So think of it as, and even now, Istanbul occupies a spot with their airlines connecting the whole world, right? Because it's positioned in a place where it's easy for them to cover the whole world with up till, I think, what is it, around 12-hour flight, which is basically any major, any large wide body airplane can cover. So planet Earth is positioned in a Milky Way galaxy, is basically has more or less that position, plus Milky Way has its rotation, where it would take it from low vibration to high vibration, low vibration to high vibration part of the universe, just because how Milky Way rotates, and where the planet is, or our solar system is one of these pockets or arms of the galaxy. So basically, as a result, we have so much stuff per se unfolding here. All these civilizations are interacting with each other through the same body, which makes them here equal. Whereas in outer space, they are in different types of bodies, depending on their civilization. They have access to different types of technologies. They have different types of capabilities. So whereas here, we've been brought into the same body to study each other, to evolve, and that's what makes also this school of evolution so much more advanced, because you can interact with reptilians without going to a low vibrational part of civilization, where you're probably going to get wiped out in a second. So that's a little bit more context on. And let me complete on the matrices. So
Mm-hmm.
there are civilizations, universal, or the let's call them interstellar civilizations, but then there is a human civilization. So what we've seen play out within the history that we know, Egyptian, Persian, Chinese, whatever the order is, Roman Empire, civilization, etc. That is just a small cycle. That is not versions of matrices. There are versions of matrices, matrix 1, matrix V1, V2, V3, but that's like a bigger span. That's, we're talking millions of years. And the matrix 1, the way it was wired in types of beings that populated this planet, they were high vibrational. They were in very at that time, the planet was in a high vibrational space. The bodies were they were less dense. They were almost like more energetic with some density, where you could almost put your hands through the body, because it was so high vibration. It was like the civilization was such a high vibration that it the forms did not have the density we have right now. So just an example, that's V1. It's completely different. And V5, all these versions of human civilizations we've seen were in the context of V5. And and on V5, there were a bunch of add-ons introduced by low vibrational civilizations. We've chatted about this. They were like spamware, right? They brought in their views of the world. And their view of the world: scarcity, competition, aggression, strength, demonstration of strengths, the stronger wins, blah, blah, blah. So like it really, they added their flavor to V5. As a result, all these human versions of human civilizations we've seen or we remember in the history that are written in this jumbled history, or leftovers of the history, is under management of these low vibrational civilizations. That's why all of these civilizations would peak and collapse, because the core value there is to create and it's funny you started the question talking about hierarchies. It's
Yeah.
a hierarchical structure in their civilizations because there is a scarcity of resources, energy, blah blah blah. The goal, the deep value is to climb the ladder so you're closer to the top to ensure your survival. In a high vibrational civilization, everybody's sovereign and has access to infinite amount of energy, so they don't care. They're all equal sovereign co-creators. With that said, when I say equal, they treat each other equally, but they understand at the same time that um, their souls have different experience and age. So the soul that has existed for 7 million years, high chance will have more experience accumulated than a soul that existed for 5 million years, and they respect that. So even though they treat each other equally, they also perceive and know when somebody has more experience, hence there is a natural hierarchy. It's not a created hierarchy. It's like, whoa, this soul has this experience, and I'd love to uh, learn that experience from this soul, and it's created naturally. But in interaction, everybody treats each other equally. So coming back to that, all these Chinese, Persian, Roman, blah blah blah, now American, is just a result of these add-ons by low vibrational civilizations, the values, and capitalism is a great expression of that value. Accumulate, 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 produce more revenue, blah blah blah, and etc. So hence it always comes to the same point: over accumulated resources spread among very few, then major amounts of debt created by incapable ones, and today incapable ones go to government. And there's a funny story. There's a family in Canada, a Hungarian entrepreneur who created a large conglomerate. Let's put it this way. I won't go in more details. Um, he basically he had a saying, and there's just a general saying in the market. The general saying in the market: if you can do, you become an entrepreneur, or you create something. You go somewhere in a company and you create. If you cannot do, you go teach. Those are the professors of the universities. And if you cannot teach, you become a politician. And that's what happened with his kids. First, he gave them each. There's a man and a woman. He gave them each, daughter and a son, a business unit in his conglomerate to run. Both of them failed. Well, he said, since you cannot do this, I don't think they went to university, meaning to teach. They skipped that step. He's like, since you cannot run the business, you're going to become politicians, and invested in their political careers. So hence, on one end, people create, and great example, Elon Musk trying to create and also trying to help America to stop stupidly printing money and creating debt. And of course, that's not happening. And those people, since they can't create, they just produce debt because they still need resources to spend, and it's illusion of resources. And of course, now I'm getting into more into intricacies or details that are less relevant of how the civilizations collapse. But the past, let's call them 5+ civilizations, collapsed that way. Roman Empire collapsed due to overwhelming debt. Dutch Empire collapsed due to overwhelming debt. Spanish Empire collapsed due to overwhelming debt. Portuguese Empire collapsed due to overwhelming debt. The
It's
list goes
definitely the
on. I don't need
theme. Yeah.
to. There is a bit of a pattern.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But there are other things at play, right? And a big thing at play is also degradation. I mentioned degradation. There is a very simple metric for degradation: is next generation better off than the previous generation? And
Mm.
around 15, 20 years ago, we've hit the mark where it's not. It's the kids cannot, the kids are lost, confused about a lot of things in life, their
Yep.
genders, they're victimized, blah, blah, blah. They cannot afford to buy a house. They can barely afford to rent. Just there's so many factors, right? Culturally, economically, take any metric and look at the next generation, and they're worse off than our parents, and they're worse off than us. So what's the metric that's flying around, or the thing flying around X, saying that in 50s, a man, one man employed with a wife and two kids could buy a house and a car and support a family of four, and the wife did not need to work. That's owning your own house, owning your own car, put food on the table, have vacations, blah blah blah, single salary. We're
Yeah.
very far away from that.
Oh yeah. I mean, there was a comparison of what you could get with a number of ounces of gold versus, what the same thing gets now, just to show just how the extent of the inflation has become, right?
Yep.
And so when we think about the Matrix, like, one of the things I wanted to touch on here, because obviously it's top of the news cycle per se, but I'm curious more on how it relates to the Matrix in general. So if we were to look at ancient civilizations, right? And if we're even looking at what we can glean from the religious texts or the ancient texts, and I'd be curious also to know all the different texts that we might even be able to use that could be relevant, because maybe some things are more relevant than others. But a lot of religious texts, they're always referring to, these are the chosen ones, these are the chosen people, like somebody has chosen these people out of everybody to be the thing, right? And how does Matrix choose anybody, or what is the path of choice via the Matrix? Like, how is the Matrix actually deciding, yeah, who is to be here, who's not to be here, who's to be in charge, who's not to be in charge? Where does Matrix have a role in these decisions?
So let's start with a fifth matrix to sixth matrix transition, the chosen or not chosen per se.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. Who's
so
choosing?
souls loaded when souls loaded into the bodies, knowing the timing of this transition, they loaded for specific experience. Some loaded here to specifically to go through experience of transition, and meaning to participate in helping the planet to transition to sixth matrix and stick around on the planet, meaning they already and that's the beauty. People should watch the cartoon Soul or read Michael Porter, mentioned multiple times, that when the soul chooses the incarnation plan, or like it's like choosing a degree. Here's what approximately the type of experience I want to have, and see if I can navigate it. So subset of those having struggling navigating it, and they will not transition. But the beauty is that it's predominantly advanced and old souls that are here to transition, because they came here to create this transition. And hence, when it's a big and advanced souls, it can load into many avatars at the same time, hence de-risk the transition. So for example, at some point in time, like I stopped monitoring this, my soul was loaded into 70 plus avatars. So if Nikolai didn't get his shit together, and we before this call briefly chat about me at 33 being completely not aligned, building business, chasing money, doing things that don't make me happy just to achieve invented illusionary success.
Mm-hmm.
And my soul started pulling out energy from Avatar. I started having panic attacks. First anxiety, then panic attacks. And that soul basically starting to shut down that Avatar, because that Avatar did not align and did not figure out what it was supposed to do on this planet. And it has another 70. So it's very pragmatic. Well, Nikolai is not figuring it out. I don't want to I don't want to spend any more energy on this avatar. Let's shut it down. Let's start bringing his life to the end, because it's not heading where it's supposed to. And I have another 70 options, right? So what's the point? I'd rather give extra energy to the other ones who are a little bit more aligned. And by the way, I met multiple avatars who basically we share the same soul. And I've observed another one having very hard attempt to shut down that avatar, and where basically a person lost everything in their life. And there are some that are just doing their part, but like living out their life because they're old enough where they'll just like, okay, this will not get anywhere, but I'll let this avatar live out. They're like, let's call it in their late 50s, mid 60s, let them live out this life and they'll just transition out. They're old enough for an average standard to for the life to end, you know. Whereas I was 33. So basically where I'm going with this, so there is a subset of souls that came here to do this transition, to attempt this transition. And we've in the previous episode we've chatted about the six matrix getting to over 50% right after our conversation, when the 13th episode was recorded. The six matrix got over 50%, which means this timeline on this planet is fixed. That's where this planet is going. It's transitioning to the sixth matrix. But it could have not worked out. So these souls loaded here to create this transition rather than the planetary reset. And we could have had a different experience, meaning there could have been the full-blown global flood or eruption of volcanoes, or some kind of asteroid showed up that whacked the planet where it would reset it. You know, there are many different ways to reset the planet and restart the new civilization from scratch and see if people, or in our scenario, humans, can build a civilization that is ever evolving rather than starting to degrade at some point. So that's subset of souls. Then there's souls that were formed around our sun, or we call them, and specifically Earth souls. Most of them will transition to a different planet where they'll continue evolution, because most of those souls are young souls. With that said, there's some old enough advanced souls that are participating in this transition. So, and the whole concept of the transition was, can we avoid complete reset of the planet, go to fucking cave age or semi-cave age, and reseed the planet and let that develop, which takes tens and tens of thousands of years, and of course depends on the experiment. Some take longer, some a little bit shorter, and etc. Can we retain this planet and let it continue in evolution, and subset of population with these souls that came to do here aligned with that, and hence the planet is being, not only the planet, the whole system is being pulled to high vibrational space. And this planet will become one of the new fractal headquarters to manage other things in the universe. It basically will become one of the central planets in the universe, because it has such a diverse repository in the matrix of all types of civilizations. So the planet doesn't already been around for millions of years, accumulated so much data that the possibilities are super advanced. So this planet is being chosen to become this one of the central planets to manage, to become where the leftover population will become interplanetary, intergalactic species. So all those technologies will become possible here and beyond. So the planets, the Earth souls, only small part will transition, and the rest will go to a copy of the planet with a similar matrix, but similar evolutionary matrix, but less diversity in the history of the matrix. So the capabilities will be the same, but the store repository of knowledge and possibilities is shallow, and it's going to be like fresh planet, where young souls will continue evolving. And then there is a subset of souls that are like from low vibrational civilizations. They just won't be able to remain here because it became too high vibrational. So they'll go back to their parts, their worlds, and so that's about the transition. Then, if we talk about what you mentioned, who is like chosen, not chosen, and this is it's a it's a bit of a bullshit concept because one of the universal laws in this universe is free will. We have free will within a specific aspect of parameters, meaning that, well, if you're a young soul and you're trying to free will yourself to transition to the sixth matrix, low chance that can happen because the spread is just too large, but you can attempt. It doesn't mean you cannot do. That means you can like create a quantum leap where maybe there will be examples where young souls will be able to jump. As an example, what's happening right now, let's call them mid-age or mid-advanced souls are able to jump to advanced souls participating in this transition because this transition is so complex. And the reason it's so complex is what we've chatted about previously is we're walking in the dark room trying to maintain our inner light. There is so much manipulation, so much darkness, so much distortion, so much, the list goes on this planet. If you manage to maintain your light and not degrade, but rather expand and evolve, you've demonstrated in such a difficult times, and difficult, I shouldn't say difficult, but difficult from evolutionary standpoint of view, that indicates that you can have a quantum leap and have a very rapid upgrade as part of this transition. So that's why there's not really a chosen. It's really, at the end of the day, up to you, up to me, up to any person to decide if they want to be chosen or not. And the choice there is to go into evolution or to go into degradation. And the past, now it's a season here, it's a warm sea, and I've been spending a bunch of time at the beach clubs, and I've been watching people. And I've been watching and observing, and I've been understanding why this civilization, the human civilization that was inhabiting this planet, has failed. The planet was taken from them because most of the humans here are slaves in their mind. They're
What do you mean
run
specifically?
by governments that are stealing, taking from them, and they're not, as an example, as just one aspect, not doing anything about it. Like most of Europe paying 50% plus taxes and not asking where that money goes, not doing, oh, they'll figure it out. I just want my Netflix and just enough money so I can make it to the beach, right? That's a mindset of a slave. It's just a modern day slave. There's no sovereignty there. So that civilization has failed a while back ago, and the final drop was, and I'll tie some pieces together, is what I mentioned. The next generation is worse off than the current generation, so that's degradation. And the timelines that we are living through, the potential of Third World War. The humanity in general has allowed people in charge of them, where shouldn't be people in charge of them, people should be sovereign, right? They should
Yeah.
be expressing themselves, has what's the word I'm looking for? Given away their rights to a few that are deciding to destroy the planet. And we're observing now that we are steps away from a potential nuclear conflict. I'm gonna break the news for everyone. It's not gonna happen. So everybody can fucking relax. But the only reason it's not gonna happen because there's a bunch of advanced souls that loaded in here to prevent that timeline and to create this transition without reset of the planet. It's not because the majority of population or humanity did something. Majority of humanity is preoccupied with protecting their ass rather than, behaving themselves in a way that is sustainable and serving the grander good. So hence the civilization that inhabited this planet has failed multiple times already. It's not, it cannot sustain itself. So hence the transition is happening, and only subset is going to stick around. Subset who is able to reach this sovereignty. So, and it's on one end, it's like, well, it's unfair. Well, no. how many civilizations that we've just mentioned on this podcast that have failed the same way? Haven't you fucking learned the lessons? That's just an indication that is a failed civilization generally.
Mm.
It's just going in the same cycle.
Yeah, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat.
Exactly.
So, like when we're looking at the conflicts, so right now, we have
Yeah.
Iran and Israel, and maybe the U.S. comes in, and you got all these other players that we're unsure of who they might be on the
Yeah.
backs of those. Everybody's playing the game. Um, where does Matrix fit in when it comes to wars, for example? Like, does Matrix create the conditions? Does Matrix fan the flames to get an evolutionary outcome? Like, where does Matrix kind of play in with this? Or is Matrix just almost like the neutral observer being like, all right, I'm just going to watch you guys fight it out here and just see kind of what happens? Like, how does Matrix play in with that?
Matrix is just a mirror of what exists within people, period.
Mm.
So the wars are just reflection of the state of people. Israelis, Persians, Arabs, the list goes on. They fucking hate each other. That hate has to come out somehow. Here's how it's gonna come out. And in the past, before it was decided that this planet is transitioning, that would have just led to a reset. So right before a nuclear fallout, the planet would just wipe out most of the population with some kind of a natural disasters. Now, since the planet is transitioning, Matrix is just using the timelines that existed with all these conflicts to do the work that is necessary without allowing it to become a nuclear World War III fallout destruction of the planet. So it's like, let the conflicts that were already planned for hundreds of years in energetically, let them happen, but just at smaller scale, so that all this low vibration energy, it's like an outlet for low vibration energy for the planet. People who hate each other are now killing each other. Let them kill each other. Less low
Mm.
vibrational people on the planet, less low vibrational energy on the planet, right? Let them bomb each other, let them shoot each other, and etc. Whoever, and I mentioned this in the previous podcast, whoever is not supposed to have that experience are not in those locations. Like I mentioned, friends from Ukraine who somehow magically, quote unquote, ended up in other countries just because they were invited, they went on vacation or whatever, and not ended up being in the conflict because they just didn't need to be there. Um, uh, so yeah, so it's just an instrument now. All these conflicts is an instrument for the Matrix to, I'd say, gently. It doesn't seem gently, but it's much more gentle than it could have been to release this low vibrational energy, as the planet is already in much higher vibration, and it also is removing some low vibrational people, avatars from the planet. That planet does not support anymore, because Matrix also has to create events in such a way that is not shocking. But we're slowly going into a time period where there will be, per se, unexplainable events. And let me explain this. So somebody dying in war is very explainable, of Avatar exiting incarnation, right? Somebody's dying from pandemic is very explainable. Like we don't go crazy. But so Matrix is using so-called explainable instruments to do the work of removing low vibrational participants or players who haven't learned shit about value of life, universal law number one, and
Mm-hmm.
etc. The other universal laws. But the further we go, the more so-called unexplainable events will be happening, where there will be more people dying from events that we have trouble explaining. And I don't know, like Matrix can play in funny ways, so hence it's difficult to predict what types of events there will be. As an example, in the previous episode, I explained how, as energy is being pulled out from the fifth matrix, more and more people will experience depression. And with depression, there are suicidal thoughts, there are aggravated health issues, and etc. So there's going to be a bunch of that. That's just one of the paths of continuing the process of removing from the planet low vibrational actors who haven't figured out how to consistently evolve and head towards sovereignty. So if I would just summarize it, the way to become chosen: choose evolution and choose constant self-development so you become happier and more sovereign day by day, even if it's a little bit. Even if it's a little bit. And the beauty is the compounding effect, as most of the population doesn't understand compounding effect. And that's why Warren Buffett is so successful, right? And
Yeah.
if you look at the micro levels, as I started going into my evolutionary path, I always wanted to have big jumps, and we chatted about this. Like everybody wants to, like, I want progress on this, like, like karma, or I want progress on this trigger. I want like rapid progress. The biggest
Yeah. Give
realization,
me the quick fix pill.
yeah,
I'm
give me a
ready.
silver bullet, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the biggest realization for me was, if I improve 1% a day, I improve at the end of a year. I think it's over 37x. 37x in 1 year. That's massive. So then I put myself a goal for myself to improve only 1% a day. And it's fucking easy. 1% is easy. It's like I would reflect on a day. You know what? I had a better conversation with my mom today. You know what? I actually, the activity I was doing, I picked an activity that made me happy rather than doing activities that don't make me happy. Like, it's tiny things. It's all in accumulation. It's all compounding effect of doing tiny changes.
Mm.
And then you look a year back, you're like, whoa, I'm a completely different human. So choose evolution, choose transition, you become so-called chosen. But it's not even fair to use that word, because you're the one choosing, nobody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, I like that. So then in looking towards Matrix 6.0, for example, in that new iteration of society, of civilization, of the planet, of consciousness, do nations exist? And then what is the fundamental bond between humans if we remove necessarily like genetics, nationality, language? Like, how does that shape as we're moving
Yeah.
forward?
Before I answer that, I want to add something on the previous one. It's like, also, I don't want this to come off as judging that the people haven't figured out how to evolve. The situation this planet exists on, under a management for the past 7,000+ years, under management of low vibrational civilization, it was very difficult to evolve on this planet, to find light. Hence, some souls that figured it out getting a quantum leap. Some souls that haven't figured it out are just transitioning to another planet where they continue their evolution, meaning it's like, it's just, it's all pragmatic. You either figured it out or you didn't. And at the grand scale, majority did not figure it out. And it is what it is. So it cannot, those representations of life are not fit with where the solar system has transitioned. They'll just burn there. Like, they won't be able to perform. So like the thinking may be, oh, like one is chosen, another is not chosen. No, you're actually being saved by being transitioned to another planet that stays in a space where there's not so much energy that will destroy you. Because the way energy works, imagine we talked about the energy coming into you, everything that's tangled or inharmonious, let's say some kind of greed, more energy starts traveling through that construct of greed, and it fucking implodes you. It becomes so expressed, uh, as an example, that you start becoming greedy towards yourself, and you have infinite amount of food in the fridge, but you only eat a small piece because you're accumulating. What if something bad happens? And then you die from hunger from a full free fridge of food. And this is how it works as a density and amount of energy increases. Whatever is inharmonious will, at the end of the day, still ultimately lead for that representative of life to exit that environment, because there are just too many inharmonies. They will self-destruct. So that's why the sixth matrix is all like sovereign beings who are in harmony, because what they then will be able to do to take all this energy and use it constructively to create versus destroy. Whereas any kind of inharmonies, let's say greed, all types of expressions of anger, guilt, the list goes on, right? Will
Mm,
just create self-destruction. So right now, the whole process, all the optimizations that are happening on the planet to make this transition for everyone as smooth, as the least traumatic as possible. And of course, for some people, it's not least less traumatic. Like, for example, the ones that are dying in wars right now or bombs, is because some of them need a strong hit to learn the value of life, to learn appreciating life, or whatever their lesson is that they are having trouble to learn. So yeah, just wanted to add that. And coming back to your question, what was the question?
yeah, just around, do nations
Oh, will exist,
exist?
and yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and what's going on there? Because if we look typically, or at least before, we're looking Matrix 5.
yeah.
You've got um, different DNA sequences, so it's like we've got a genetic little group that we uh, quote unquote belong to, and then we've got nationalities, like this
Yep.
person's Russian, this person's from Armenia, this person's from China, and then we've got language, which again bonds groups together because, oh, they're speaking my language, they understand me, and my language denotes specific things about my culture and about the way I express myself. So in Matrix 6.0, what is actually there if not these things?
So first of all, the construct of state as we know will not exist, because right now it's a very distorted construct where it's like creates a bunch of separation. Why can't I pick up and go live? Literally, I'm like 10 kilometers from Croatia, but I cannot just pick up my like luggage and whatever and move over, buy land there and start living. I have to go through all types of hoops and crap to get local residency and blah blah blah, right? There's so many limiting factors, and we're also at the final stretch of those states because we're shown now how ineffective they are, where uh, we're paying taxes and those taxes are being spent, for example, on wars, just
Yeah.
because one politician doesn't like the other one, or one doesn't like the religion of the other one, and the list goes on, right? Or one looks strangely at the other one 10 years ago at some summit. So that construct is gone, right? The diversity stays and not. And what I mean by that is, yeah, there are different cultures, there are different types of these avatars. Like one is Asian, one is Caucasian, right? But ultimately, everything going to having to sharing the same field, so sharing the same values. And that's where also it kind of broke down. There were multiple fields that coexisted at the same time, and like there was so much misunderstanding even between cultures. How is it even possible for Israeli to make peace with Persian right now? And that's an example of how fragmented everything was. We're going towards one cohesive field where we're sharing the same values, which are in the universal laws, and we understand how they cooperate, how to cooperate through that, and how those universal laws work or how they operate. So as a result, yes, there will be diversity because my incarnation, my experience is different from your incarnation, your experience. Your soul is from Vega, my soul from Mintaka. I'm bringing different type of experience, knowledge, wisdom, etc., etc. You're bringing a completely different one, but we're sharing this all in the unified field, which as a result can be used constructively rather than be misunderstood and used destructively. Oh fuck, you don't get me, I'm gonna go invade you since you don't understand me, you know. And that's going to be the beauty of this of the next version of the world, where uh, this profound amount of diversity can coexist and co-create. Because if it would be like super homogeneous, then amount of the new stuff that we can create becomes limiting, because then you carry only one line of experience and that's it. Whereas here there's just like and that's also the power that I mentioned of this planet. There's just such a diverse repository of data from so many civilizations. As a result, will be the sixth matrix is creating this one single unified field. So once we're unified, we understand each other. There's no need to fight. Everybody's sovereign. Everybody has infinite amount of energy. Then we're bored, right? Imagine we're in that situation. We're bored. What are we going to do with that? We don't have negative traits of character now, because to get to sixth matrix, you got to process your karma. Then the only thing you're left with is to create. Then the question becomes, what can I create? And then you start playing with creation. What can I create alone? What can I create with Mitch? What can I create with John, with Ivan, with C, or whatever, right? The name that the Chinese name is.
Yeah.
And so then it becomes all about constructive use of that diversity. Whereas right
Mm.
now, also diversity is so heavily and extensively being used to separate people and create wars. Oh, your religion is different. Fuck you. Let's bomb.
Yeah, it does seem like the diversity now is used to single out groups to pit against each other to
Divide
create
and conquer.
more chaos. Yeah, divide and conquer.
Yeah, that's where it comes from. And they understand it well. It works. But you cannot separate someone if somebody's sovereign and feel fully complete and understand that another person is sovereign. And it doesn't matter that they're Asian and that they're different. They're just, that's their expression in life. And I just want to co-create and collaborate rather than go and bomb that person.
Yeah. So to wrap it up, tell me about the unified field and what does that look like, and then how is everybody going to be tapping into that in this sixth matrix?
Well, unified six matrix is unified field, and it's based on universal laws and everything that will support and enforce universal laws. So if a person cannot align with universal laws, then like the field will not support them. So it's pretty easy. And once everybody is on the same page, it's like, okay, number one, universal law number one, we protect life and life's evolution. Universal law number two, whatever you put out, you receive, basically the mirror, right? Or the
Mm-hmm.
thermodynamic law, the force you applied externally is the same force applied at you. If you put out anger, you receive anger. That's why it's like you want to put out a lot of anger because you have it. Well, it's going to rapidly kill you. In the fifth matrix, there was a buffer. So you could put out anger so you could learn to harmonize and stop putting out anger. In the sixth matrix, there's no buffer. It comes back instantly. And like, I'll give you an example, right? Like a very vivid example is we had one session with Maxime, my business partner, where we were talking about story of Jesus, and story of Jesus is quite distorted. That he died on the cross. He actually didn't die on the cross. He spent some time on the cross, and then he got off. He was taken off the cross, and I think his mother picked him up, and he went back to Tibet, and that's where he originally spent most of the time. That's why basis of his teaching are Tibetan teachings rooted in Buddhism and etc. And and he misspoke at the session where he said like he didn't even go on the cross. And the next day he comes to another session with another client, and his hand is all wrapped in the bandages. And I was like, dude, what happened? He's like, I got a nail right through my hand because I misspoke about he communicated wrong information. And that's one of the universal law. You have to speak truth. He didn't speak truth because he was rushing, and he part of his personality decided to over exaggerate the story, and that was his inner distortion. And within 24 hours he had a Jesus experience himself. He had his hand nailed to the piece of wood.
Oh wow.
And this is an example of how six matrix works. Like, you want to lie? Well, let us
You get
deliver you an
spanked quickly.
experience. Yes.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
he had to basically then on the next session was the same person. He had to correct himself. Basically, like, listen, I misspoke. Here's the actual, I looked deeper into the story. Here's the actual story. He went on the cross, but then he didn't die on the cross. And that's the difference.
Hmm. Interesting. So as we sort of transition to six matrix, I guess you could say then that yeah, even from that evolution perspective, sixth matrix is bringing out the best of us and is holding us to a higher standard than before.
Yeah, and even more ruthless. So that's why for young souls to stick around here is self-destruction, because young soul that has still a bunch of inharmonies will self-destruct within minutes with this type of matrix, right? Or the sixth version of matrix. And the reason it has to be that way, because the amount of energy that will be traveling through every carrier of consciousness, which is human on this planet, will be so high. You have to be able to sustain that. And to sustain that, you have to have inner harmony. It's like,
Mm.
there is another way to describe it. Money is energy. And that's why they say when people get money, it magnifies what exists within the person, right? Because the more money you have, the more you start expressing your harmonies and inharmonies. Like if you were, let's call it judgmental and abusive towards somebody of lower status, which is a type of karma, then a person with more money starts doing that more and more with more people, because now they're higher and higher status and they can do it to more people, right? You come into a Four Seasons 5-star hotel and you treat the staff like shit. You come into a meeting with a president of a smaller country and you're loaded. You're like, let's say you have 10 billion, you come in with to a meeting with an average African country, they will kiss your feet for an investment, right, into their country, into their economy. Now you start treating him like an asshole, like shit. That is just another way it has happened previously. But because in the fifth matrix there's a substantial buffer between that expression, like you could have like done that many times in your life, and then let's say by 60 you have some kind of health problem and that's your karma caught up to you. But it has been buffering for like a good 50 years, or I don't know, 30 years. In the sixth matrix, it's like you do it, it happens within minutes, hours, or days. You don't need to wait, and it happens in a more rough way than like you slowly, your disease develops slowly, and then it forces you to pause and ponder why you're getting this, and then hopefully learn a lesson. Wow, you should have not been dominating and mistreating all these people around you because of your status.
And so just to tag on to that, so if we're looking throughout society, it's almost like, did you ever see that that classic movie They Live?
I don't think so.
With Roddy Piper, where he's got the glasses on and he puts the glasses on and he can see what civilization is telling him. So it's like every billboard is, you must buy, you must this, and it's all like hidden. And then there's these avatars that are not avatars, are almost like reptilian. It's an interesting movie. You would dig it, I think.
Okay, I should
But
check it out.
yeah, it's interesting. But what I'm wondering then is, we're walking through society and we can't, at least I don't know, maybe you can, I don't know that I'd be able to, but we can't necessarily see the level of the soul. So it's like we're seeing this outer external thing, like we see this guy, he's got success, he's got money, but that may not in any way, shape, or form be relevant to how old or how wise the actual soul is that has that has come down and been in there. Or how does that work?
Well, and
The
that's the
external
beauty
versus
of
the internal.
the fifth matrix, that everyone here is a teacher. And that's what Buddha was saying. Treat every other human as Buddha, as your teacher. They're always trying to teach you something. So, and that's the power of it. And it doesn't matter if the other avatar is controlled by a reptilian. It's trying to teach you something, because the reptilian will intuitively know where your distortions are and will try to lure you into situations that are not harmonious through those distortions. And that's why we should be grateful for that experience, because we've been influenced to go do something that is not aligned with universal laws, right? So on one end, it doesn't matter, because bottom line, we're learning from everyone and everything. On
Hmm.
the other end, as people activate, meaning as their triad synchronizes, their mind, soul, and spirit, they start seeing all that. Like I see all that. Like I can see who is who and etc. Do I look? No. So that's why because I treat everybody equally. It doesn't matter. It could be the youngest soul on the planet. I treat them the same way as I would treat the most advanced soul on this planet. So, and only in rare scenarios I look deeper when I need that context for because that evolutionary experience requires that deeper context. But uh, that's my situation, right? If somebody doesn't have that capability, that evolutionary experience would not require that capability to see that additional context. The lesson will be on the surface. The lesson will
Mm.
be within their capability, right? So as you further activate, you'll start seeing all that. It's funny when I started seeing all that because previously I denied all that. I was like, yeah, reptilians, blah blah blah. I didn't deny it. I was like, who cares? Like I just didn't bother. They were not in my life. And then Matrix started bringing them into my life because I needed to understand those and learn about those civilizations. And I clearly remember that I was in Buenos Aires, and then that's a lot of it started coming into my life and showing up in my life. And it started showing up earlier, but I was still ignoring it. Like I had one interaction with this woman who was basically operated by reptilians, and um, let's call it was a semi-intimate interaction. And after that I was basically like I had zero energy, and I realized that only parts through who I'm dealing with. And the low vibration civilizations are great at taking energy and like professionals. And I literally was flat in bed for 24 hours recovering with a bunch of my like basically my team helping me reestablish the energy. And that was one of my like first interactions with the other representatives of the low vibrational civilizations. And after that, I was in Buenos Aires. I decided just to proactively go in and study. Like I would go on Tinder, and like I could sense from like a picture, through a picture you can connect to energetics of the person. I could sense
Mm.
who is who. And I would go specifically on dates with representatives of different low vibration civilizations to study how they behave themselves in life, to study their traits, their characteristics, and etc. And for and whoever needs to go through that experience sooner or later are exposed to that experience. And if you're not having that experience, that means it's either not part of your incarnation, or you just don't need to go through that experience. But ultimately, everyone who transitions to the sixth matrix will have all types of bioenergetic capabilities, psychic capabilities activated, and with those capabilities, you can see through. So that's and there's nothing like people make it sound as like I think there's more Hollywood exaggeration about everything than what it is. Like the idea is it's still part of our universe. You can look at all this pragmatically, and you can look at all this. It's like we don't judge green over red. One is green, one is red. Right? It's just a color. And
Yeah.
this is just a civilization that is doing its part in this universe. And on a universal scale, low vibration civilizations have a very important role, which is destroying everything that cannot sustain its own life. So it creates space for new things to be created. Same as on this planet, because everything's fractal. There's light and dark, and there's energy of creation and there is energy of destruction. Through energy of creation, we create. Then let's say we build a shed. 10 years later, we realize it's the shed is now the wood is rotting, and it's not big enough for all the stuff we bought for the backyard. We need to disassemble it and build a new one, and that's the energy of destruction. So they just carry predominantly that energy, and they do it on a grander scale of the universe, and they are represented here as well. So the whole idea is to uh, we're learning to stay harmonious no matter who we interact with, and then we interact with them from the context of who they are. If they're trying to attack us, we protect life, universal law number one, so we kick them back. If we're just interacting, they're not attacking us, it would be breaking universal law for us attacking them since they're
Mm.
not breaking universal law. Do you see what I mean? But
Yeah.
everybody makes everything like super black and white, which and that's exactly what's happening now with all these conflicts in the world. Oh, we're gonna bomb Iran, and Iran, we're gonna bomb Israel back, and it's like, okay, it's and there's no uh, there's lack of discernment. That's the word I'm looking for. And lack of
Yeah.
discernment is exactly what got this civilization reset multiple times, because discernment only develops when you synchronize triad, which is mind, soul, and spirit. That's and then we've developed discerning mind.
Mm, got it. So then it's like that's the whole key. It's like let's just watch what's going on in the world, have discernment, and grab a bag of
Well,
popcorn.
and learn, yeah, and learn to discern. And it's like at the end of the day, all expressions of life that exist in this universe have purpose. We are not the absolute to judge them, but we are here to learn what they are, what their parameters are, how to interact with them harmoniously, and etc., etc. And that's how we develop discernment.
Well, if we look at yeah, just all these different energies, all the different discernment, and all the different, I mean, just the shit that's going on in the world, it seems like this transition towards, Matrix 6 is going to happen, and people are either going to get on board or they're getting off. And I'm
I
going to
just
grab
go
some
into the different
popcorn.
train.
Yeah, I'm going to grab some
Yeah.
popcorn and watch this all go down.
Yeah, while working on yourself, focusing on your evolution, and then you're
Yeah.
definitely making on this train.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Well,
Great
thank you
chat as
once
usual.
again. Yeah, this was fabulous. I hope for the people listening, it starts to make a little bit of sense on the transition the world's going through, the craziness that's going on in the world, and all this chaos, because all the chaos sort of does have a
Purpose.
purpose in the end.
It does have purpose in the end. Use it as opportunity to learn, to develop discerning mind, to process anything that destabilizes you. If this chaos destabilizes you, look inwardly and find out why it destabilizes you, and you'll do well.
All right. Well, I will see you back here next week, same time, new topics, and more Matrix dissection.
Until the next one.
Ciao.
Ciao.